win, so I guess everyone feels that they win if they survive.
Welcome to the Classic Adventure Gaming Podcast. My name is Gus, and today I've got another great episode for you. I'll be joined by a huge group of gentlemen who organized and or attended the first annual Cauldron Con that took place in Germany this year. As a quick aside, we will be returning to our regularly scheduled programming with Big Josh back in hosting and the normal panel of fantasy adventure gaming grandees of Gavrlux, EOTB, Zerbus, and Prince of Nothing. And I wanted to quickly plug a project that should be on everyone's radar. Our very own EOTB has been toiling away for a coon's age on a very large virtual tabletop project, and he has just wrapped it. A big congrats to EOTB for completing the Osric Compendium for the Advanced Role-Playing System rule set for Foundry. If you are not familiar with Foundry, it is one of the best VTTs out on the market, in my personal opinion, and the Rs rule set is far and away the best AD&D rule set for the Foundry platform. The companion Osric Compendium is an immense amount of free content that EOTB put together that you can use to enhance and supplement running your advanced games in Rs. So if that is of any interest to you, I highly recommend checking it out. I'll have a link for the Osric Compendium as well as the Rs rule set in the show notes. So without further ado, let's jump into it with the Cauldron Con boys. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Classic Adventure Gaming Podcast. This episode is going to be on Cauldron Con that just happened. I've got a wonderful group of guys that have returned, have allowed it to kind of simmer within their souls, and they're going to give you guys a little bit of a report on their experiences. So let's kind of go around the table. Black Razor, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and we'll just kind of go down and say who you are and maybe a little bit of your background in adventure gaming, whatever you like to introduce yourselves as.
Sure. I'm Jonathan. Black Razor is just the handle I use on the internet, or you can also call me JB. I'm from Seattle, Washington, born and raised. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for 32-ish years or so, since about 82. I was the only person who flew from the continental U.S. to get to Cauldron, and it was well worth the trip.
Dick, Doofy Doof, take it away.
Yeah, I'm Doof from the Pedantic server, and that's about it.
Excellent.
Well, you drove in from Sweden, no? I mean,
This is true. I drove from Scania, Sweden, so that's a 8-hour drive.
hats off.
Very impressive. Lynch.
Oh, well, from Ireland, it's Lynchpin. I flew to Cauldron. It was pretty fun. We'll see how long I can stay telling people about this.
Thanks, Lynch. Mr. Milan. I don't think we'll let you introduce yourself, but
there is not much. I'm Gabor. This has been my first Cauldron Con, and we first took a very long train trip to Munich, and then sped through the congested highways of Germany to get to the con. Just a few minutes before my session started. It was a rough landing, but worked out perfectly.
very nice. I guess we have to let Prince introduce himself.
Well, I of course need no introduction, but nevertheless, I will take this opportunity to once again reintroduce myself. I go by Prince of Nothing. I'm known in the OSR for having a review blog as well as authoring several modules. And I, of course, also had the immense pleasure of attending Cauldron Con, which was my first gaming con. And I flew from the Netherlands to Frankfurt, and then it was a train trip together with the great Mr. Becker, and I believe an overland journey, which may have taken place at about 150 kilometers to maybe 280 kilometers per hour on the the Dutch Autobahn, or that's what it felt like. And before you knew it, there we were.
That's exciting. And Mr. Settenbrini.
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, that's my online name, and I've been around in the online scene since I guess 2004-ish. I'm a veteran of the Swine Wars, but I've been a true school gamer, like let's say adventure gamer, uh, since I started. I would say back when I was a wee lad. So yeah, I mostly come originally from a traveler and wargaming background, and have been in the OSR scene and the D&D related scene since I think 2005, 2006. Of course, in the 90s, I played some AD&D, but that was, more something I don't want to repeat because it was second edition, um, authored by one special gentleman named Zeb Cook. Um, yes, and I'm one of the organizers of Cauldron Convention. And yeah, it makes me very happy that so many people had fun and so many people are telling everybody else that they had a lot of fun. And yeah, I'm very honored to be here on this fine and esteemed podcast. And yeah, hi. Hi to everybody. Hi to the listeners.
Appreciate you, Seth and Brini. So tell us a little bit. So we'll start out with Seth and Brini. Actually, you have your own podcast, and I want to make sure we plug that because you guys had your most recent episode. You went into some detail as well about the con. So if you wouldn't mind kind of letting the listeners know, definitely want to send them out to your podcast and highly recommend it. Very informative about the nuts and bolts and your guys' impressions about the con, but I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, so our podcast is called Zockbock Radio, and it's part of a club effort of a German club that's also the the umbrella organization under which we also organize the Cauldron Convention. So it's all the tax exempt registered charity. It's all for the love of the game and the culture. So no Patreons and no money made. And yeah, Zockbock Radio, we have some English language episodes. Usually we are a German RPG and general fantastic culture, nerd culture podcast. But we have some episodes, as I said, in English. And the one you mentioned, it should be episode 51, I guess, or 52, which is on Cauldron. And we some of the organizers talk among ourselves what our impressions were. Yeah, you're invited to listen to that, and I think we don't have to go into these perspectives today. But today is your question, especially the participants who can talk about it. So this is very interesting and should be a nice change of gears and pace. And on Zockbock Radio, we also have interviews with some OSR people, which might be interesting. So we have interviews. I think we have an interview with Gabor, with Prince of Nothing. We have an interview with Patrick Stewart, with Gene Weigel, one of my all-time favorites. That made me very happy. And we have an English language interview with Trent Foster Smith, which you know all of from the Melanoth Falls and from Heroic Legendarium, and for generally being the person who can channel Gygax's ghost. Yeah, I hope I probably forgot some English language episodes, but those were the ones that came to mind right now.
No, I'd like to say that Seth and Brini Zockbock Radio podcasts are really good, especially the English language ones. I've listened to all of them multiple times. There's stuff to gain out of all of them. Yeah.
Yes, seconded. They're fantastic. So we're going to circle back to Grutzy real quick. Grutzy, let's see if your audio is working, and we'll let you introduce yourself real quick.
Okay, so quick test. Everybody can hear me?
Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay, don't know what's happening with my micro. Hopefully it lasts. Okay, so my name is Grutzy. I'm in my mid-30s, from Germany, southern Germany, born and raised there. I've been playing RPGs since 2006, been in the OSR scene, kind of lurking at the edges from about 2015. Joined a pedantic Discord server 2 or 3 years ago, kind of went downhill from there. Trying to get a bit more active now.
Trying to recover from just being on pedantic.
Yeah, it can be quite an experience. No, but in general, I I had my phase where I tried to play like really everything: Old World of Darkness, New World of Darkness, story games, GNS theory, Forge stuff. I'm kind of, what do I call it? I'm kind of leveling myself to AD&D right now because that's part of my journey, I would say. And yeah, that's how I came to be here.
Excellent. Appreciate that. So just piggybacking real quick off of Set and Brini's comments, I think for today, instead of going into the nuts and bolts, I'm curious, we'll just kind of go through, you guys start talking about some of your favorite experiences, some of the games that you played in and what you enjoyed about them. And then I do just a little bit, what I would like to hear just a little bit about from a format perspective, and maybe we'll start there, is how much gaming did you guys get in on any one particular day? And how was that schedule kind of set up for you? And how did you your thoughts on that compared to maybe other cons you've been to? And any of you guys can fill this question.
Okay, I'll start. Just because I'm like that. I've been to other cons before. This one was probably the best organized I'd seen for what it was. The time slots worked very well. We got in there Friday and we were able to eat and then game. And then Saturday, all the games went off without a hitch. Same with Sunday morning for the most part. There was some discussion about starting earlier and making some adjustments on the fly because of things that came up with the venue. But everything went smoothly for the most part. And I heard no complaints while I was there. I had no complaints while I was there. I thought it was great compared to other conventions I've been to, I should say.
Very cool. So for people that don't know that are listening in, it was Friday through Sunday, correct?
Yes.
It was just Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Okay. And then when you got in from the travel day did you guys show up Friday morning, or did some of you guys come in Thursday night, or how did that work out?
Well, for me, I had to leave Thursday afternoon because I was traveling so far. I went through Iceland to get to Frankfurt. I got into Frankfurt Friday in the afternoon, I think, when I met up with Prince, and we trained out there. So I think the con was supposed to start around 6 o'clock. That's when
Yes,
came.
6 o'clock was the dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah, where we had the suckling pig, and then 8 was the time for the sessions to start, which was when the Hungarian detachment arrived just on time to grab one bite and then start playing or DMing in the case of Gabor, which was very impressive. He didn't even eat anything until later, right?
Oh, I just skewed that, but that was all right. It was a sort of a gate crashing, quick start, jump right into the middle kind of thing, which is, I think, for conventions you have to learn starting in medias res, so right into it, focus on the action, and I think that worked out very well.
Very cool. The rest of you guys, thoughts on the travel day, getting in, jumping right into the action after dinner?
Yeah, it was pretty great. I kind of concur with Becker there that it was the organization was like just right. There definitely was a sort of like time pressure, and I felt that time pressure as well because I was I had prepared a bunch of pre-gens, but they were all on my laptop. I had not taken any character sheets. So fortunately, of course, there's plenty of character sheets available. But having to pen all of these 14th level characters, each of which had like 22 magic items. Before my game started, I definitely felt the time pressure, but it was great. I got to play in Gabor Lux's game. I got to play in James Ranji's game. I was a little bit paranoid about missing my flight on Sunday, so I left a little bit earlier. So I did not get to finish playing in Black Razor's wonderful performance of S2 all the way, but I did get a little whiff there, and I almost got to die. I saw the first 3 characters get wiped, but it felt like one sort of indivisible, continuous sort of experience of games with just enough sort of like downtime to keep everybody mentally sharp. But it was again, yeah. I don't know how they did the time blocking there, but it was phenomenal.
No, that's actually a really good point. In other conventions I've been to, they'll do the blocks one after another, and these ones were broken up, so there was
Yes,
always downtime in between, which allowed
that
us
was very
to
welcome. Yeah,
it allowed us to clean up stuff or maintain. If we're for me, I was running my first 3 sessions I ran they were 3 different adventures, but they continued the same characters, and so players were showing up from session to session, and I was updating their character records for each session, and so I had plenty of time to do that, plenty of time to calculate experience points and fill out the survey forms, which were pretty good. Um, and we
there's
can
also
talk
like
about that.
oh the
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of appreciated the the human element to it as well, where you have some time to shoot the shit and have a brief chat with all of these people that you've maybe heard of, or maybe you've only maybe you only know them through the internet or whatever. Um, and even then, I felt it was like again, it's just right. There's like there was a focus to it, definitely, but there's enough breathing room so that like every time I would go into a new session, I would be fresh.
Okay, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. It's exactly that. I go to like 6 conventions a year in the south in the room of South Germany, and most of them have this time blocking system, and it's one block after the other, and it really it stresses you a lot because you're always on in the game. You have to play. There's no room to breathe. And Cauldron Con did this perfectly. They left room to breathe, to decelerate, to shoot the shit, as Prince told it, between sessions or even in the evening, which really added this human element and brought it all together. Everyone was focused on gaming. That's the baseline, but there was enough fun to be had outside of the games as is.
Yeah, I think it really speaks to it's like a testament to the brave men and women of Nexus, basically, for running it like
They
that,
were
because
great. They were great.
it felt like it felt superhuman. Yeah, I didn't get it felt like personal, right? And you really could just like sit down and have a chat, have a beer with your fellow players, with the con organizers. Everybody kind of like felt. I believe correct me if I'm wrong. Seth and Brina, you were definitely also like occasionally playing, right? I mean, you were organizing the con, definitely, but weren't you doing the chainmail battle? I'm trying to recall.
Yeah, I was doing the chainmail battle, and this took over I think 6 or 7 hours total. So that's the amount that I played in. So I didn't manage to be part of a session. I couldn't do this time. Hopefully next year I will be able to play more. My partner was very adamant about that I need to be DMing next time. That was a very important thing to mention. So I didn't do this time because I had so many things to look out for and to organize. But yeah, I did get some gaming in, and that was the chainmail game, and that was was a highlight for me personally, definitely.
I'd like to also say about the space between time blocks, that time to decompress. A lot of times, what I saw people using it for was to discuss the session that they just had and talk about things that worked, that didn't work, their impressions, and then that would lead to conversation just about the game itself and the systems and best practices, which could then, kind of be implemented into the next session for people. That may help maintain focus on the gaming. Whereas other times you get so burned out after 2 or 3 blocks in a row that you want to do anything other than talk about gaming. And all of the sessions can blend into each other or run into each other, and your brain gets to be a muddled mess. But here, that actually helped keep the focus, at least for me and for the people I observed.
Yeah,
focus,
same here.
Focus is the word I wanted to use in this episode. And at a lot of conventions, I actually saw the opposite is that it is very flabby. There is a lot of dead time that's dedicated to events that are only tangentially related to gaming. But here it was really the main course, but just enough time in between to continue the conversation, get to know people, and that's really a good balance. All the successful cons that I know have this sort of strong focus on a common interest, on common gaming. I was just at Hungary's old school convention yesterday, the 11th one, and it kind of follows the same model as Cauldron. So you could go back to the quote, I think by Tolstoy, probably that all happy families are alike and all unhappy families are different. So there's a recipe there.
I mean, from my personal experiences on Cauldron, it was also a pretty good thing regarding the focus that Milan just talked about, that everyone that attended the con basically was crystal clear on what they wanted. We all came there to play a D&D or old school D&D in the broader sense, but no one expected to play like some 5e or something even more out there. That's a problem I have with many of the conventions around here in Germany I go to, that they are pretty open to all. So they are pretty unfocused in that aspect. You come and you have like a plethora of games to choose from. But if you play like 3 games on a convention, you have 3 wholly different experiences, and you have to like decompress, decelerate, refocus every time. And that's pretty tiring. And none of that happened at Cauldron, because everyone on the baseline, we all were there for the same reason. We wanted to play cool old school D&D.
On the broader topic of this podcast in general, if you want to try to be everything, you often end up becoming nothing. Can't do everything at once. And this con does one thing, and it does it very well.
And it was interesting too that AD&D, as we've all sort of experienced, has a kind of maybe a more sort of an insular reputation, even among OSR people. But this convention, it attracted people who had never played it, right? And it was who are used to like maybe lighter systems or that sort of stuff. You had new players, pretty young people. It was no problem. It all ran smoothly. The DMs knew what they were doing. It was just nice to see. So I would echo the sentiment.
One of my friends I drove to the con with, Alex. He was the driver. He also attended Cauldron. He came to me shocked after Gabor's game on Friday evening. I think it was Urmalk the Boundless. Gabor DM'd. He came to me and was kind of shocked, like he never would have thought that someone can DM in such a way with so many people, and then AD&D of all things, that complicated system. But it really helped him get into the role and opened his eyes, so to speak, took away his fear.
Yeah, I think this is one of the only things that really I don't know. I feel I don't know. It makes me a little nervous if people highlight how complicated and deep AD&D is, because if you are a player, you don't need to know basically anything, at least if it's not 12th level, right? I mean, of course, skill improves and skill exists, but the system is much more simple than 3rd edition or even 5th edition to just run a character that's handed to you and play it. I mean, of course, you can get better at it, but there's no arcane thing behind playing it. So and I think what you guys said and what we all saw is that it's just true.
It's kind of a tragedy that in the greater OSR scene and in the even greater RPG scene, AD&D has kind of this reputation as like it's so complicated and none of it is really warranted. So yeah, it has its depths, it has its problems. Sure, every system has its problems, but if you put in the work, you can DM it like anything else, and Cauldron showed, I mean, it worked like a spell.
Well, I think it's there's a difference between how complicated it is to absorb, and it is like the organization is Byzantine. The wording is very often kind of like ambiguous, so it's something that you kind of have to, I guess, try out and discuss with more experienced DMs more than that you can read it in one go and then like instantaneously grok it. But if you once that understanding
hold on for just a second, friends. Hold on.
Okay, wait a minute. Go ahead.
Okay, so you were, if you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but you were running AD&D, which is not a system you have a whole lot of experience with, right?
Correct.
Or it's not the one that you have the most experience with. You were
Right.
running a game of high-level AD&D, or was it 9 people in that session?
It was 9 people. That is absolutely right.
And so 9 people, high-level AD&D, and was this the first time you've run for that many people in person before?
I've run for I believe 8 people in my my home games,
But-
like in my
but in-
Carcosa game.
But in an AD&D game.
Oh yeah. Yes, I've
That's your-
ran for 6 people before for high level, both 1E and 2E.
Okay. But I was going to say, for you to sit down with a system that's not the system that you're most familiar with, and
Correct.
and run for that many people in person, and dealing with their personalities, table banter, all that, and have a great game, which you did. And everyone said so that I heard from. I mean, I think that just goes to show that it's really it's not as hard as one might assume it is based on the reputation. And that's not to say that you're a dummy. I know you're not, but I'm just saying that you could go in there and DM it with perfect competence, so that everyone had a fantastic game and a fantastic time. I mean,
I agree with that, and even that it's I think it's harder. It's easier than it is made out to be. But if I look at, say, AD&D compared to many other games in the OSR, it does take a little bit more effort because of the aforementioned. And I mean, there's ways around it, right? But like, just be aware that stuff does exist. It does require a little bit more attention, and again, a little bit more, I guess, sort of like patience and practice before you kind of like grok it. I do think that is correct. I also think that the complexity is overstated. Yeah, I agree with you.
Looking at the players at the con who had actually, some of them had no experience with old school gaming at all, and they took very quickly to AD&D. In my experience, they just got their character sheets, got the basic mechanics, and the rest was really diegetic problem solving in the game environment, and that's it. You don't really have to know much more than it. Maybe a little bit about spells if you are playing a cleric or a magic user, but that's not really complicated. If you know computer RPGs or other game systems, it's really not nuclear science.
Yes, I would agree. For players, it's actually quite easy to grok. With players under a competent DM, no problem.
That's one of the things I noticed on Cauldron too, that first, nearly all DMs, or all ADMs I've seen, were pretty well prepared. Everyone had pre-gens with them, had little handouts prepared or stuff there to diegetically give the players, which helped them to get right into the game. And then every game table I saw or played or DM'd was like laser focused. There wasn't much banter. People weren't looking on their mobiles except maybe to check a spell or something. So basically everything that happened at the table from the player's side was interacting with the game. So nobody talked about the game last session or something. Everyone was focused on the game at hand, and it really helped to speed things along and make for really great gaming.
Yeah, I would echo that. The only time I saw people using their handheld devices was to access PDFs of the rule books. They didn't have their books with them at the table. They had them on their screen, which is something an old man like me, I don't do that. I like to flip the paper pages, but yeah, there was no distractions. Very focused.
So I'm curious on that one. I like that. I'm going to pull that thread a little bit, especially for you gentlemen that DM'd. What do you think contributes to the focus at your table during the con, at your games, keeping your players engaged? Like the different attributes that you think helps keep a table during a con, which in my experience is very difficult to do, right? And maybe that's a component of something that separates Cauldron, like you guys said, is very specifically focused. You had very, players that were very much looking for a particular experience. And maybe that's not for the bigger cons. You're going to run into more problems. But I'm curious to hear from you guys what helps keep players engaged at your tables.
Maybe I'll start. I tried to DM 3 times. My first game, my Lamentations game, didn't happen. Strangely, it didn't happen because on Saturday people came up to me and said, oh, they had seen I DM'd on Friday and they couldn't find me, which was kind of a bit strange. But for me, what keeps people engaged, first of all, on a convention, push them right in. No long travel to the dungeon, no long backstory, give them pre-gens, tell them the basics, and then kick the door in. And then try to keep the tension up. So if they linger too long or if they ask questions, keep it coming. I DM'd Red Prophet Rises, written by some other guy on this very podcast here.
Yes, that's Malric and me. Hell yeah, that was fucking cool. Oh, I shouldn't swear. I'm sorry.
Fun fact, was also my first time really DMing AD&D First Edition. I ordered the books like 2 weeks before because, like Black Razor, I'm a book guy. Worked my way through them, went off like a spell, but basically start them at the dungeon, kick them in if they begin to linger, to formulate insane plans, let something happen. And that's from my side, though I have to say the atmosphere at Cauldron, because everyone was focused on playing AD&D, on gaming. The players came to the table with I got a feeling different ideas of what is going to happen instead of on a normal convention, if I can say it like that.
Yeah, you can say that. I'll say it's been a long time since I've run games for adults, actually. The last few years, I've mainly ran for kids, my own kids and their friends. I used to run a regular game down at my local bar for 3 or 4 years and had 9 to 10 people at a time. That was running BX. But I have an internet blog, so I have a little bit of a reputation as I'm an adversarial DM. I try to challenge the players as hard as I can, as long as and still be fair about it. And so some people know my reputation. I think they came to the table expecting me to run my game like that. So that helped keep them engaged. Even if they don't, that's how I run my games. So they really have to pay attention and stay focused, or else their characters are not going to survive. And so that's how I try to keep players at my table focused, is by making sure that there is a heightened level of danger so that they can't not participate or they can't not engage with the material going on. If that makes sense. I think that maybe there are a lot of different styles of play when it comes to D&D these days. There's a lot of people who have some different understandings of what gameplay is supposed to be like, as far as we're going to pretend to be these characters and play out their story arcs and craft something that's something like a morality play, or I don't know. That's not really how I treat the game. And I think that most AD&D DMs, just because of the way 1E is written, are kind of in that same vein. They're trying to present, monsters that are going to kill you, that if you overcome them in whatever way you can, you're going to be rewarded for it. Settembrini and crew made it very clear that no matter what system you want to run, it should be a system that awards experience points for treasure that's found. And that objective of gameplay helps focus everyone at the table so that no matter what role you are playing in the game, no matter what kind of character type you all have a singular objective. You're all trying to find money or find treasure in order to become rich and powerful. It helps keep everyone gelled as a team. That's one of the great things about the older editions of D&D. So laying that out as part of the Cauldron experience right from the get-go, it was in all the emails, and we saw that on the website for Cauldron. That helped focus expectations for the players who were sitting in on game sessions, I think.
Yeah, maybe I can chime in a little bit because that was sort of on purpose, and I'm very happy that it seems to have worked. Gold XP for gold was was one of the main drivers of conformity, I think, because there were other game systems. Of course, there was Helvetia, there was Valkyries and Vikings, I think. There was Lamentations, and there was OD&D. But through this common point of gold for XP for gold, according to the AD&D scaling, I think that was a very good point of reference there. Also, there's sort of an unofficial part of the organization was no workshops. I could talk a lot about that, but I think what all you are saying now justifies our decision to have no workshops, just games.
By workshops, you mean like even presentations by speakers and things like that?
Yes. Yeah. Like have a panel discussion, or have have a talk given on a specific topic, and then maybe a discussion afterward, or maybe even some kind of teaching that one or the other would-be attendant wanted to do. But
the thing is that even without set panels, people were still discussing the game and talking about things, but over meals instead. It wasn't and it didn't detract from the gameplay.
Yeah, that's
precisely. You get the games and you get the useful, high-quality conversation, and you don't have to dedicate a separate panel discussion to that. It just happens.
Especially all discussions were meeting on the level and not non-hierarchical, which was very important to me and the other organizers, and I think this also showed. So there also was nobody was treated differently from everybody else, I think. I hope. Maybe Jim. We gave Jim a little extra, but I think that was warranted. He had quite a chore. I mean, Jim Reggie, he had to he had to do several different things at the same time. So
noblesse oblige. That was totally justifiable. I played in this game too. That was good fun.
Yeah, but apart from that, all discussions were on the level, and that I think it contributed to them actually being meaningful, right? Also, keeping the focus high. Yeah, but sorry to interrupt.
No, that's good.
Yeah, not at all. I think very interesting. So I'm curious, the con, at least from the general con experiences that I've been to here in the States, usually an extra day or two compared to what you guys experienced. And I think that was for its benefit, but I'm curious to see what your experience is, because you talked a little bit about the need to decompress. Number one is, thank you, by the way, Brady, for posting up the schedule. But having the lunch, number one, catered food is what I'm assuming. Correct me if I'm wrong. It was brought in. You guys didn't have to go outside of the venue to eat. And then two, having those breaks set as 2-hour blocks instead of maybe a single hour. That seems to have allowed you guys plenty of time to eat, decompress, have those conversations you talked about. Now, if you were to do this over 5 days, do you think it would be as enjoyable? Would you want it to be longer, let's say 3 or 4 days, in comparison to some of the bigger cons that do go that long? I'm kind of curious, like your guys' ideas on length and how long is too long for a convention? How much is too much gaming, if that's even a thing?
I do believe an extra day would have been great, but let's not get too greedy. I mean, it worked out very well, and of course, a longer convention really put the burden on the organizers. So there is that. But I really have to thank the team who was there. They even helped out at the kitchen, I think, and helped with organizing things, put things together. There was certainly that. There was no distraction. No distraction there.
Yeah, well, I'll forward those thanks. And just because you were asking about kitchen, and I think Gus asked about catering, some meals were catered, but many things were made by our own staff, right? Were homemade or made on the on site. So there was a healthy mixture of both.
Weren't some of the apples there, the bio apples, right from your own orchard?
Yes, indeed, they were.
Well, there you go. I mean, can you go to Gen Con, and this is from the personal, the latifundia of Peter Edkison. I don't think so.
100%. It's exceptional. That's exceptional. And that's an experience that I think almost nobody gets in the modern cons, speaking specifically to the States. That is not an experience or an attribute that a con is going to have available, or a choice that's going to be available. So congrats on that one. That's exceptional, Brini.
Regarding the length question, Gus, it feels a bit like when you have an extra long con, that's when you find the need sometimes for filler events, panels, or workshops, or other types of things to go. Gaming it takes a toll on your mind and even your body sometimes, depending on how much you're doing and how intense it is. And that's not just Dungeons and Dragons. That's if you do some hardcore Forge kind of role playing, you can really burn out your psyche a little bit too. If the con had run longer, I don't know if the quality would have suffered. It would have allowed some of us to play in games or run games. Set and Brainy might have got a chance to DM or play some role playing. I might have got a chance to do some chainmail or do some playing. But as it was, after 3 days, I was pretty tapped out just from the intensity of the gaming that we had.
Yeah, same here. Though I have to say, on Sunday I DM'd my last game. Then it was time to go. But I was pretty groggy, to say it like that. But it was the good kind of tired. If you know what I mean. It was like it was an intense weekend. We had good games. I've DM'd some, I played in some, we had good talks, and the mind was at its limit is the wrong way to say it, but I think you guys get it. We all were tired, but it was the good kind of tired. I personally wouldn't mind another day in a sense that the convention from my perspective could have gone from Thursday to Sunday, though I'm pretty on board with all the points that it may first lose this laser sharp focus we've talked about, and that maybe if the convention gets too long, too big, you feel the need to fill in other stuff and lose the focus.
Well, I can break the news to you. We will see, because next year's Cauldron 2024 will have an extra day. We will open Thursday night, and we'll have the Friday for full. So you can arrive just as, if time allows, you can arrive a little bit more relaxed on the Thursday evening, and then have the full Friday for gaming, and not only Friday evening. So let's see if this we lose focus, or this is just more of a good thing. But we'll give it a try next year, and we're very excited about it, because we were at the site 1 day earlier anyways, so we thought, okay, this would not be more work, and we were there on Friday morning anyhow, right? So this will not really change the time being on site, and so we thought we will give it a try, and maybe make it even more relaxing for the people who have to travel so far for the focus, right? So yeah, let's see.
I think one more session would not have killed me on Sunday if it had been 3.5 days instead of 2.5 days. But yeah, I'll be interested to hear how it goes for you guys next year. I don't think I'm going to make it out for 2024. 2025 though.
I'll also try to make it. I guess I agree. You probably don't want to like push your luck. I would have appreciated. I probably could have left a little bit later than I did on Sunday and still be well all right to catch my flight. But I was just paranoid with all of these different connections that it would not something would go wrong. But the length was actually kind of good. If you ever have I don't know if you ever have this feeling that like in I feel a good interaction in say even like a party or a good duration of a piece is if it leaves you wanting a little bit more, right? If it doesn't like overstay its welcome. And here it was just like it was perfect. And by the time then like the ending came, of course you wanted a little bit more, but the pieces that you got were like very refined, 100% pure gaming. It was great.
Regarding the ending of the con, I think one part that also played a role was the trophy awarding at the Sunday. It was like a high point to end the con on, and it was a pretty funny thing.
So tell everybody how that went. What did you guys award? I know in the Zockbrock podcast there's a little bit, but give a taste for everybody on what exactly were the awards, who won them, how did that go down?
Should I be saying that?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so what we did, we awarded 3 trophies and 1, let's say, achievement. And the three trophies, the 3 trophies were the best dungeon master, the most valuable player, and the biggest looter. And the achievement was the Cup of Demise for the most and the most spectacular deaths of across the convention. And I think this Cup of Demise was achieved by Max, and if I remember correctly, he got first. Oh well, JB, you tell the story. It wasn't your game.
It wasn't my game. He was drowned by a water weird and then revived and then destroyed by his own party members when a wand of wonder set off a fireball in a small room, and he had still not quite recovered from being revived. So he died twice in quick succession, much to the amusement of the entire table. It was a well-deserved trophy for him. I think he appreciated especially the bottle of booze that came in the mug, so that's good.
Yeah, and the best looter was won by Sören, I think. I don't know his online handle. But shoutouts. He was hands down the most effective facilitator of tombs robbed and gold pieces counted. And then we had the most.
Wait a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't you also say on the convention itself that the 3 following places in the looting table only came that high because they played games with him?
Yeah, exactly. That's how it went down. Yeah. So there was no mistake giving out this award. So yeah. And the most valuable player. And well, if you don't know how this went down, all players, including the dungeon master, got report slips where they noted several things down. So like a little mini questionnaire where you should rate the session or rate the players, and the DM was supposed to give information on gold and so on, and who died and these things. And from that, we had the data analyst doing the data analysis, and we found out who won in the categories. Yeah, and the one category for player skill was most valuable player, and that was won by Mikhail. I think he goes by Beefy or Bi-Fi online. And as I said during the convention, it was to me, it was a personal pleasure to give this award, most valuable player, to a fellow advanced squad leader player. So he's also in that scene, in the wargaming scene. So yeah, as I've been saying all the time, if you really want to go advanced and advance within advanced, then maybe train yourselves on some war games. At least for him, it worked out. So, but the most prestigious and biggest trophy went to our own here present JB Jonathan. Congratulations again. By all categories considered and all rankings relative as well as absolute, you were the best DM of the convention.
Yeah, there. Thank you, and I really appreciate the trophy. And my children were very impressed, which warmed my heart, of course. But there were a lot of really good dungeon masters at the convention. I would say that I want to say a couple things about the other trophies that got awarded. The surveys that were done, the surveys after each session were not like huge or tough to fill out. They were just half pieces of paper with like 4 questions on them. The tabulation of those things was done by the Cauldron organizers, and they were very efficient, I guess, in that. But Mike, or Mikhail, he told me to call him Mike. One interesting thing I found is that he played in 2 of my sessions where he played very well. And I think he played in one of Prince's and one in Gabbers, maybe. But in all the sessions, I believe he played the same character type. He always played a cleric. And I think he had a lot of experience with that character class. And because of that, he was able to utilize that class to he used the class very well in a way that worked to its strengths in a way to help the party. And that just shows that he was an experienced player of the game, and not just, I'm sure squad leader helps, but he knew what he was doing from actual gameplay. And he was also an exquisite team player. He did not try to dominate the group or anything like that. He offered suggestions. He helped others out. He helped raise everyone's level of gameplay, as well as utilizing what he had as a character to work with. And I think that's why I gave him high marks in the sessions that he brought to my table. And then for Zenkis, he was very he got a lot of that gold in 3 of my sessions, and he did that just by surviving and solid gameplay. He picked a very sturdy dwarf as a character, and he just showed up and didn't get killed, and that's all you have to do to survive and thrive, really.
Yeah, interestingly, I think Mikhail
He was
did.
also one of the younger players, I should say. Zenkis was.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I think Mikhail did not really play 1st edition before the Cauldron Convention. I think he played 2nd edition and played a lot of OSR games. So regarding system mastery, he was, had meta mastery of old school games, but not the intricacies of 1st edition. I think were not. So he didn't have training in that, but more general training. And this shows that to me that 1st edition is a vehicle to actually make these broader skills also shine, right? Understand the rhythm and the you need to understand the rhythm, and you need to understand the interaction of what your character's abilities are, along with all the team player thing, both as a fellow as well as a fellow character on the board. But there's these rumors that 1st edition is something like Hackmaster, where you have to rules lawyer, and this is totally not the case for effective play.
Right. No, 100% agreement.
So I think that's you guys gave a little bit of experience behind actual games that took place during the con. Love to hear you guys talk about some of the highlights for you of the games that you experienced and why they were highlights. Doof and Lynch, I haven't heard from you guys. I want to get you in here. So let's open up the floor for you guys.
I think the second session of Slith Hive was my highlight, but Doof can continue.
No, I was about to say the same thing, but I also have another thing. My absolute highlight is Prince spilling his drinks at every table at the convention.
I do that. Yes, that's. I'm
It's
like
a tall
known
people
for that.
thing.
With my friends as well. I would do that when I was at when we would go to the bar. Yeah, for sure. I'm honored, gentlemen. Please continue. What did you like?
But no, the second Slithheim game was amazing. That is probably my best experience as a player in D&D overall. Just having nine players with decked out characters with a real challenging module, like there's nothing that can beat it.
Moved much faster than the first one. I think a lot of the players started getting into the swing of things in the second session, and it was really enjoyable.
Definitely.
Yeah, if I could do a do-over, I probably would have started everybody not in town. I would have started you guys directly in front of the Slith Hive. I think the final exam sort of start was kind of, in a way, it was kind of chilling and grave, but it did get everybody into the right mindset. And yeah, people had. I get this more often when I ran Slith Hive for like brand new players who've never played AD&D at that level, right? They don't quite know how powerful they are. So they, in the beginning, they use all of their reconnaissance capabilities, but they play like very carefully. So it was nice to see that after that period of adjustment, things started to like speed up more, and you guys did indeed start tearing through the encounters, which was cool as shit.
The highlight for me was meeting all the people I'd been tormenting online for the last year or so.
True that. My personal highlight from a gaming perspective was the first game on Friday evening where I played in Milan's game, because it was simply a really delightful game. We had really clever players. We had at the beginning we were a bit too careful, I think, but we managed. And even though I think it was the mage getting torched by a flame trap on a door, we made it all out alive with some nifty treasure, and it was just really nice to play a good game of AD&D right after arriving. From a personal perspective, I also loved meeting you guys there.
Yeah, that first
Hell yeah.
session had really a lot of creative spell use, creative bypassing traps, and all that. One funny incident that stands out is players obtaining valuable statuette just smeared with contact poison, retrieving it without getting killed by it, and getting ambushed by brigands in the necropolis who were sort of hunting the treasure from the treasure hunters, and just pawning off the poisoned statuette to them and just getting the hell out of there before they succumbed to the venom. That was well played.
Also, a funny little thing was that we didn't have a casualty in the game, but because of our cleric was killed by an assassin after the game ended, because Milan did a very cool thing at the beginning where you had the option to draw a card from a table from a little pile, and the card could give you like a bonus option or maybe more information or maybe something negative. And I think our cleric drew something like a quest. He had to retrieve a certain shield in the ruins and bring it to a gangster boss or something, and he didn't manage that. So Milan rolled a few dice and informed the player that his character had died after the session had ended because the assassin had killed him, and that made a pretty good laugh at the table. And he took it like a champ.
Yeah, we made it to the assassination table after that failed. That's actually a pretty good setup that gives the players some random variable that they can play with. And I actually ran the same scenario yesterday, and one of the players started out in chains and a loincloth and an escaped slave. In the other game, different adventure, two of them started out cursed, but one of them had a sort of a servant barely restrained carnivorous ape. This is something that's very useful for con games. It just adds a little bit of chaos to the formula.
Yep.
I can recommend it for others as well.
Yeah, I can say it was a really nice. I wouldn't even call it a gimmick because it was pretty central. I think I draw like 2 rumors, which helped us get into the necropolis and stuff. So it wasn't like it wasn't just set dressing. It was central to the plot and to the game in certain elements, but a really nice touch.
Yeah, I know that talking to the player who was assassinated after the session, it was memorable for him, for
Yeah.
sure. And I mean that I'm not being facetious. I mean that in a positive way. He was kind of proud of the fact that his character had failed and then met his much deserved destiny.
That's also one of the things I remember fondly about Cauldron, that everyone was really gracious and simply fun. Even if players died horribly, you didn't see an angry table flip or something. Nobody argued too much. I mean, there was arguing about rules and interpretations, the usual stuff, but nobody was like, no, I didn't say that, or no, my character wouldn't do it. And that way, everyone simply gamed, accepted the consequences of their actions, and then moved on. And on con games, where it's mostly one-shots or you get pre-gens, you don't have that deeper connection to your character for sure. But I think everyone was really graciously in their gaming.
Oh, you know what, Grutz? I want to say something about that because I meant to mention this earlier. The whole idea of doing this with the AdCon, which is the German version of Flail Snails, where you get to take your characters from your home campaign or someone else's campaign and cross-pollinate, move them to a different DM's game. That was something that was set up from the beginning by the Cauldron organizers, that this was going to be in effect. And so I knew going in to the convention that there would be players who were bringing their own characters to the game. So for me, this was an incentive to make adventures of a certain level, kind of a mid-level tier, and also to make sure that it would be worth their while to come to the game session. Now, I had about 20 pre-gens that I used, but at least 3 players brought their own characters into my game, into 3 different sessions. And so for them, I wanted to make sure that they would have a good experience. Now, at least I'm trying to think if they all died. I know that one of them did get killed in the White Plume Mountains session at the end of the con. And Philip's guy got reduced to 0 hit points and had to sit out the rest of the session, though Philip took over a pre-gen. But yeah, there were no complaints about it, and I tried to be as fair as possible. But that definitely was not only a consideration for me going in as a DM, but an incentive for me to run a good game that would be enjoyable to those players who brought their characters from their home campaign. I wanted it to be worth their while, not just show up and get murdered for 5 silver pieces or something, you know?
Well, that little trophy you took home says you succeeded admirably, huh?
Yeah, something like that.
And I mean, there's a certain charm in getting killed. Oh, sorry, Milan, you go.
At least one character definitely survived. It was Mr. Chomi's, I think, Elven Fighter magic user who was a survivor of the entire Horde of Delusion campaign that we ran over the COVID period online. So there were high stakes there. You take that character to the con game, you'd better survive with him.
Yeah. Philip's guy survived, but did not get a whole lot of experience points. And then German Tom, he was one of the one of the Nexus people. I believe he helped with the organization. His half-orc fighter did get murdered to death in my last session.
Oh, and they don't get no resurrection.
Well, no, they didn't.
No, I mean half-orcs never can, right? I mean,
they could be reincarnated. Yeah,
well, I guess so. Yeah, that's true.
Back to life. Yeah, it's harder for them.
Yeah. In addition, maybe just to chime in a little more, in addition to the AdCon rules being in effect for making it able for people to bring their own character. Also, what we have is from the German AD&D subculture. We had our shared DM campaign at the Wild Coast, where it's a continuous campaign where you have open table games where you can take your character and play with this DM and this DM, and this is all happening in the same universe, and then it's on the same hex map basically, and it has a progressing, well, not a storyline, but a history that's being played out, right? So that the events all happen, and this was also partially going on during the convention, and there were some games, at least one game that was even crucial to the chainmail game. So this is something that I wanted to share because I think the podcast here, TCAG, recently talked a little bit more about domain play and all these things and continuous play, and I think this is where really where such things can shine, right? If you have a multi-DM campaign that's collaborative and you have these highlight events like a real life convention where you can bring this also to life and have a battle to decide who rules is a big city in that milieu, right?
Yeah, I personally enjoy that, mixing that in. I can't state highly enough how wargaming definitely can improve your skills. I do love that concept, and Set and Bring Me, I'm going to be the first, well, probably one of many that is that. Go ahead and translate your jiu-jitsu article into English for all of us. We would love to push that out to everybody. I know that Google could do it, but it's a wonderful article, and I think more people should have access to it. So just 2 cents from this podcast host.
Yeah, well, it's mostly a joke, but in the way I present it, but the contents, I'm actually serious that I think it's one way to achieve advancement, right? But yeah, but thanks if somebody's interested in it. Sort of didn't even think about it. Somebody brought it up. Don't even know why.
How many people ended up playing in the chainmail game? Santa Marina, do you know?
We were 3 on the evil side, then 1 player for the Amazon Expeditionary Force, and the light side was were they good? Well, they were not evil. Let's say the Lords of Safeton and the Allies of Safeton. I think they had 4 players played on the side of Safeton. Yeah.
So something like eight participants in the chainmail game.
Yeah, but I want to be honest. Some of them were a little bit, zooming in and out, and not being totally focused. Some of them were totally focused, but I think at least 2 were a little, having a smoke, having a beer, having something to eat, then coming back and not being totally. But that's also fine, right? I mean, it took a while, so it's totally fine if somebody's not there the whole time. But 5 of us. Go ahead.
I was just going to say no, but the very cool thing about that, for those of us who our main war game experience is something like Warhammer, where you're just one guy against another, to see so many participants in a battle that really had 3 factions going on, I think was really pretty neat, right? And showed, what you can do with that kind of old style wargaming and still make it relevant to your role-playing game campaign. Yeah. Because there were ramifications from your shared world that carried over into the war game, and there were ramifications from the war game that carries back to your shared world, and there were multiple participants at the same time leading different forces and taking action in that. I think that's something that gets missed a lot, as why the wargaming aspect or throwing chainmail into the mix can really spice up your campaign setting.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's I can only recommend it to everybody. And it was, again, so Ghoul and I, we had most of the preparation work done, but then all the others had never played chainmail, right? So, and some of them were really RPG people only. And one of the guys who played on the side of the Scarlet Brotherhood, of the evil side, who played some of the orcs. He used to play a little in one of my MechWarrior and BattleTech campaigns, and there really he didn't have any fun with the BattleTech tactical system. So it's really not his forte, but he definitely really enjoyed Chainmail because he said it came very natural. It occurred very natural to him. So he could imagine what was happening and would just ask how this would run in the rules. But then it was very, it felt organic to him how the game played and how the rules interacted with each other. So that's also a big plus for the actual rules, right? They're pretty sturdy and they're pretty useful, I would think. Yeah, and others too, right? I mean, the big winner, the Amazon player, also never played the game before that, and that's a testament to that you can you can command an army even on your first try, and so it's not black magic. It's not something you don't have to learn ASL to do it. Chainmail is really not that big of a deal. Just do it. Just play it. It's fun, and you can use bottle caps, or you can start using just index cards for formations or what have you, right? Just and use a book for a hill. That's totally fine. Yeah.
So speaking of mix at the con, how many different types of games did you see? And when I say different types, I mean, we could talk about genres with, you got a war game. You may have skirmish games. You've got different systems that were played. Kind of give everybody an idea of the variety that was there.
I can speak from my own style, from my own thing. I wanted to DM a game of Lamentations that would have been weird steampunk, but that never happened. I DM'd Red Prophet Rises, which is Conan the Barbarian meets Blood God, and I DM'd Metamorphosis Alpha on Sunday morning, so really old school sci-fi. And from what I gathered, there was a pretty good mix.
Remarkable variety, actually. I was under the impression that it was with the one exception of James Raji being allowed to on account of noblesse oblige to run Lamentations of the Flame Princess. I thought everything else was just AD&D, but I guess that doesn't make sense because Gabor also ran Helvexia on a Sunday, I think. I only attended AD&D games, but even then there was and the Lamentations game, but even then there was a pretty big variety from what I got.
There definitely also were so there were style wise there was OD&D exploration, like proper hex crawl with open ended, no pre-planned module. Then there were the hyper focused people who tried out one of their modules, like U-Prince or like Black Razor, and there were others like Doof who also brought stuff from their home campaign. I think it was really more like an offering, and players could decide where they wanted to go. I think there was also, I mean, most of it was either exploration or dungeon based, but we also had some horror elements with the Ravenloft. The original module was being showcased. What else was there? Well, Mutant Future stuff, right? Like Gamma War, Metamorphosis Alpha, and but I think pretty much everything was very close in the sense of being adventure gaming. So exploration, combat, a lot of action, I would say, and dangerous stuff going on. I haven't heard about any crime scenes being investigated or any any court cases being played out. So in that sense, it was more narrow on the adventure side, but on that side, I think many flavors were covered, from sci-fi to gothic horror to as Grützi said, sword and sorcery, sword and planet, more higher fantasy stuff, and I think that there was variety within that general adventure gaming framework.
I mean, that comes back to the focus of the convention as large. I mean, everyone was kind of agreeing when they participated that we want fantasy adventure gaming going on there. But in that, like Sabrina said, in that narrower region, you can still branch out in many directions. Very cool.
Yeah, I think by you guys having those rule sets that don't obviously get a lot of playtime, like Metamorphosis Alpha, I think Sabrina, you said there may be some BattleTech that was played. I've heard it other people that have gone at least to Nortex, like North Texas RPG Con that I attend. When new participants arrive, they're kind of blown away that they see actually people playing those rule sets that don't usually get a lot of love. So that's kind of fun. That if you've ever wanted to play a rule set that in your local area probably doesn't get played too much, you can experience that. So that's good to hear on that. So yeah, I always find there's definitely plenty of variety within inside the fantasy adventure style of play. There's definitely there's a ton of variety there, at least in my opinion. So, well, for anybody that's interested in attending next year, you guys have any advice that you would give them in any type of advice, whether it's how to, how you should prep your game, if you're going to DM, if you're going to be a player, what you should bring, travel, or any other advice that you would give to potential participants for next year?
First advice would be quick. I think the convention was booked pretty instantly, and then there was a waiting list that filled up pretty quickly too.
Yeah, get your ticket early.
I would say from the DM perspective, I would definitely take a page from Becker's book and make sure that you dot all your I's and cross your T's before you go in there. So just make sure that you have character sheets ready. If you use miniatures or something, yeah, that's right, laminated map. Try to. I would say if you start a game, cut the chatter, right? To try to throw them right in, eliminate sort of like waste, get to the good parts, and consider that as well. As a player, I felt going in there as a player was like pretty easy and relaxed. You just had to the only thing you had to do is focus on the game, I guess. Everyone else was just like relaxed. There was an unlimited supply of food and coffee and beer, so really all a growing boy needs.
For all the online internet disagreements that have taken place over the last few years, there was nothing but good fellowship at this convention. And so if you're going in for as player or a DM, I think just keep an open mind and a relaxed attitude. Remember why you're there. You're going to play and to meet people, and you'll have a lot of fun. That's what happened with us. As far as prepping for games, I found it was very useful for me to play test my adventures beforehand in order to make sure that they would work for a 4-hour time slot. Because 4-hour time slot, and I did that with the first 3 adventures that I had. The other one was just something I whipped up at the end, the White Blue Mountain one. But I've run that before. But having that knowledge of how much time is there, how to move the game along when you're actually running the game.
That's a very useful way of looking at it. In a home campaign, particularly in this corner of the hobby, we rightfully put a lot of emphasis on really open-endedness and sandbox gaming, a really wide approach to treating the game environment. And at a convention, you have to cut that down a little. You have to think in terms of what fits in one's time slot. It doesn't have to be the entire adventure. Obviously, we didn't get to play the entirety of Slit Hive, but we at least got a pretty good taste of it. And that's that's what matters. That you get a sort of full experience there. That people, when they stand up at the end, they will say, "Okay, this has been something."
Yeah, I'd second that. I mean, I DM'd Red Prophet Rises on a Saturday, and that is normally a module I would like take 2 to 3 evenings simply to let it breathe, maybe even more. So we had a 4-hour time slot, and my group, they were very efficient. They got in, they looted a bit, found some stuff, killed Khazra, made a deal with Luvaki, I think he's called, his second in command, and then got the hell out. But I was pretty upfront from the beginning that we would not play everything of the module, of course. But they basically had their objectives, and they achieved them. That's also one thing I'm, in a retrospective from my own game, my Sunday morning game of Metamorphosis Alpha, I think everyone pretty much felt that I didn't prepare it as well as the other games. I kind of winged it there.
Yeah, the preparation pays off, I guess. When I ran Slith Hive and I was my table, which already had 5 people, suddenly received another 4 by surprise, which I had not counted for. I mean, but my adventure had enough pre-gen, so I could quickly write everything up. I'm still disappointed that Chomi refused the hero's call and did not, was not willing to play Kent, fearing perhaps the power of that character. And I noticed that especially with an adventure where the characters can do so much, it helps if you know it pretty well, so you can kind of like anticipate, like, so that even even when you guys blindsided me and you sent the genie to do some scouting, I had already like sort of considered when I was writing the adventure, like, okay, what would happen if it wasn't a genie specifically, but let's say you summon a demon or an invisible stalker, and you try to scout that way. How far do you get? So I was able to sort of like anticipate it there. I would definitely also recommend, if you're going to DM on Edicon, don't just jump in blind. Like, either pick something that you've already run, or run it before, so you don't get any nasty surprises. And even if you do get a nasty surprise, the game must go on. Calm down. It's not a big deal. You can. It's important that you remain calm, make steady judgments, keep the game moving, and no rush.
Yeah, I was thinking about this the other day, that the old TSR conventions, the old Gen Cons, they would come up with an adventure module that like all the DMs would run, at the table. Here's your copy for all the people who are playing. We're gonna grade the different play groups against each other, how they do. But how can you run an adventure that you've just been handed? That to me seems a very high challenge for any DM, even a very good DM, to do, to just read it and run it, and then run it in a quality fashion. I think that running something that you've run before is the best preparation for being a DM at a convention like this one.
Yeah.
If you can't run it beforehand, at least read it beforehand, so you try to understand it.
Or if you created it yourself, right? If it's a DIY thing, then you should be fine, I guess. Don't have to read anything because you made all of it.
Yeah, you know it, right? Yeah, exactly. You should. That's probably one of the best things. If you can. I mean, the difference between the amount of I guess text and information that's required for someone else to communicate their intent to you, with regards to running a scenario, and like the amount of information that you need is just like sort of like a mental heuristic and a few just like predetermined game statistics in order to run a game, is like it's massive.
Yeah, you need a certain familiarity with whatever you're running, either by having written it yourself or created it yourself, or having played it or at least read it beforehand. I agree with that. One thing I find that helps me like smooth over hard patches in a game like when players ask uncomfortable questions or something, is there's pretty good material out there that helps you with that, like on downtime and domains, or Gabor's nocturnal table, for example, stuff like that you can drop in. I mean, it's pretty specific in certain cases, but you can prep stuff for when it goes wrong. Like you can have a table with a prepped party that breaks the door down when something happens, or such stuff.
Yeah, and if they ask a question that you had genuinely not considered, then you can still sort of still sort of like figure it out, right? Consider what the answer would be, and then just go with that. Whatever you need in order for the integrity of the module to remain intact during that session, right? And then later on, you patch, quote unquote, you patch that weak spot, right? You iterate, you get better at it, you know how to handle it.
Though an interesting thing is, I think that's specific to a convention, because in your home game, it's mostly not a big deal if you like say, okay, guys, I take 5, I need to figure this out. But at a convention table, most DMs probably are averse to doing that. Like Black Razor, JB said it, he wanted to deliver an experience. He wanted to prove that he can do it. So at a convention, you probably won't stop the game for like 10 minutes to figure something out. So you need like other ways to do that.
Yeah, I would even say make a if you can't figure it out, make an ad hoc ruling and then look it up after the game.
I think it's more important to let the game go.
Yeah. No, even I would say almost even with a regular game, if it takes too much time to figure something out, very often, you make a ruling and then later on you figure out what the actual answer was and you figure out if you did it correctly or not.
With regard to pre-generated characters, it's good to have more than less, I found.
Yes.
So, I had like 20 prepped because I anticipated players would get killed and I wanted to have extras there for them so that they would not be just sitting around on their hands while the rest of the table continued playing. So I think it's good to have more pre-generated characters, not less, to do those substitutes, those tap in when you need them. Since everyone at the convention is there to play, you want to give them the chance to play, right?
I can definitely second that. Having run a few games at a convention, you can never have too many pre-gens. Matter of fact, you can definitely not prepare them in advance, and that you can run into lots of problems. So, because then you're going to spend table time rolling up characters. If you had a few extra players want to show up and play, when you could have just passed out pre-gens. So definitely make significantly more than you think you're.
Well, one thing I will say, one thing that I did not anticipate was that a lot of the players in my games wanted to take their pre-gens when they left. So they would be there for a session and then they would go. Now, fortunately, my printer at home was not functioning. And so I had my spouse print up my my play aids before I left from her office printer, and she ended up printing 3 copies of every pre-gen, which turned out to be really good for me because people would walk off with them, or they wanted to keep them for their to play with in their home games afterwards. So having extra copies of each pre-generated character allowed me the freedom to let those go and pass them out. I can say by my 4th session, I was running low on character sheets just to hand around the table for people.
Definitely.
Character sheet wise, yeah, I was I fortunately had enough pre-gens prepared, but yeah, writing all of them down, especially during a game, I think my finger was literally bleeding at the end from the because I had to pencil all of it in like one after the other. But so recommended, do it beforehand.
But I mean, even in the TSR classics, you have Tonkin, Huddy Peaks, and big vendors of Krudel. They are maybe a line or 2 each, but except for Losta Mohan, but they are there, and that's a baseline.
Yes, absolutely. All my pre-gens were all based on the 20 characters that are the 20 lines of pre-gen PCs from the back of the Dwellers of the Forbidden City adventure module. So all I did was
cool.
I
didn't
took those.
notice that.
Yep, I took the names, the class. I now, for some of them, I upped the levels of experience because my adventure sessions increased every session. So the first session was 5 through 7, the second was 6 through 8, the third was 7 through 9, and so I had to have enough characters of the requisite levels for each adventure. But all of those were taken from those 20, and then I just filled them out and fleshed them out and gave them spells and equipment and stuff, and that made my job a lot easier since I had that baseline. But you can use those resources; they're there. If you're running an old adventure module, I know Septembrini not a big Zeb Cook fan, but at least for Dwellers of the Forbidden City, he did me a solid by putting together a set of pre-gens that I could use.
Well, it's not him, probably.
Right. No, I know it's his.
I mean, look at the credits. There's like 5 developers and 3 editors, and there's a lot of people need. There's a lot of people needed to make Zeb Cook shine, right?
I mean, we can safely say Zeb was responsible for the evil parts, the parts that sucked.
that's a given.
Love it.
But no, I mean, look at the Zeb modules or the Zeb things that are really only written by him, and then you can see,
I mean, I wanted to bring up the specific example of Palace of the Silver Princes and Princess. You can see the Jean Wells version, and then you can see the Tom Moldway editions. And well, Tom did pretty good work elsewhere, but you can really see that where is the good stuff and where is the crummy stuff coming from.
There it is.
So you guys came. Just we'll switch a little bit. We'll get back to Zeb Cook for sure. On other episodes.
Sure.
We have a love. We lovingly like to call getting zebbed. That's a thing for us. So, but transitioning gears a little bit, you guys came from lots of different countries. So, from your home countries and the play cultures that surround your home tables, did you guys notice a difference when you all came together and played at the same tables at the con?
Definitely.
I'll say. Oh, I was going to say no, actually. But go ahead. You.
It is more. I'm just going to read. I'm just going to read my message from this from the chat. With there being a lot of new / OSR players, I felt that the play style was far more diegetic than what I usually see in AD&D, which totally makes sense when you have no sense of the quote-unquote meta strategies.
Could you unpack this, please?
I mean, so a lot of the time when I specifically reacted to this in Gabber's game, where we as a group had to try a lot of creative strategies to kind of work around obstacles, which I think I usually see less of. I usually see more people just using their powers to like more directly handle problems.
Are they using a different system there, Doof?
I play AD&D, so no.
Okay.
That's interesting. I wonder if it's a background, Doof, if they come from systems where that's more encouraged, right? And then they transition to AD&D, and so they look at that as like, okay.
I mean, if they don't know what is strong, they're just gonna have to play smart.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I can say, Doof, you're talking about Gabo's game on Friday, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was in that game too. And one thing I remember that kind of stood out to me was we had one encounter where like some creatures came crawling at us. We fought them, and then we retreated back into a mausoleum and closed the doors, but barred them. And the whole time I thought, why don't the cleric tries to throw a turn undead? But the player didn't know, didn't react. I mean, we didn't know if it was undead we were fighting against, but from my personal experience, if that had happened at my table and I had DM'd it, my cleric player would have tried to throw a turn undead. But maybe that's going in the direction you're talking about, that he didn't know about the abilities.
It makes sense, right? That if you don't really know the underlying whatever abilities, or maybe you know you have the abilities but you don't know quite how strong they are, then you go back to I guess engaging with the dungeon as though it were a real place and trying to solve it like a real world problem, right? More like I don't know what the right word for it is, but like more like a simulation. You start using your environment, your smarts, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. You come back to your real life experiences because you don't have the in-game experiences to draw it from.
Right.
Well, I mean, which of us hasn't fought off a pack of ghouls yet?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I will say, so some of the players that were coming to my sessions were relatively new to first edition AD&D, but my pre-gens had many of the abilities already written down on the character sheets for them, so they were kind of listed there. So they had, even when they chose a character and they weren't familiar with the class specifications for this system, they still had things at their fingertips that they could look at and say, "Ooh, I'll try this or I'll try that." In my home game, my players, they are familiar with the characters that they're playing because they're their regular characters, right? And so I didn't see a whole lot of drop off in playability at the table. And I was actually very pleasantly surprised at how efficiently the players work together as a team, because my normal gaming sessions of AD&D for the last couple of years have been no more than 4 or 5 players. And so with 8 players at a time, they still cooperate very well together, and for the most part were able to survive what was going on in the sessions. So I did not see a whole lot of change, even though I was playing with novice 1E players at times. I saw pretty effective play for the most part.
I was
One of the
actually
games I was in. Oh,
go ahead.
in one of the games I was in, I think it was Doof's Smorgasbord Adventure. Just a difference, not necessarily from my. Well, yes, it was a difference in my home game where they played much more cautiously. In this game, they checked every single exit of the room. They opened the door in a very strategic way, but they made very slow progress compared to my home game, which is much more blitzes through the dungeon, sort of. I think just that was interesting. Just that there's a different styles of play. One is one is very much more cautious and methodical, and then the other is devil may care.
You'd imagine the con game that people play a little bit more recklessly, right? Because especially if you give them all these items, they don't have to think about like, well, I don't know, maybe we'll need that 8 sessions down the road or something.
Right.
But in
Yeah,
Slith Hive, they actually played pretty carefully. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Nope,
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
No, I ran this adventure before with two of my friends who I've played a lot of Axe with, but no AD&D, and I gave them 2 pre-gens, and I gave them basically two of the pre-gen characters as like retainers, and they actually tackled Slith Hive head on. They blasted through all of their items, just brute forced it, set everything on fire. It was kind of an interesting approach. Whereas it's probably also the player dynamic, right? The initial Slith Hive group was very cautious, especially under. We also had Mikhail as well. He used speak with animals very intelligently. They really it took them, I think, like, what is it, 2.5 hours or something before they finally decided to commit to an engagement at all. Before that, they had just done like reconnaissance, invisibility, flight, all that stuff.
I think the amount of cautiousness can just be an emergent property of the individual session and the player group that meets, right? The types of players. If there's somebody who's moving quickly along or pushing the group, or if not. So I think if the DM plus the group converge and in a certain manner, then you will have a higher variety than in your home games, where this all is already settled. Who's the one to move forward or to keep the pace? And I think in turn, or as a contrast, I think JB, you made it your mission, or usually make it your mission, as I understand it, to make everybody play a little faster and make you take some of the group leadership role. Is that true?
When I play, I do, but as a DM, it's more applied pressure to make fortune favors the bold, and I want them to play bold. But that didn't stop. For example, that did not stop them from doing some cautious reconnaissance when that was part of the scenario. But the first 3 sessions I ran, the ones that I was graded for, I made them all to be played in a different fashion. So one was very open-ended, and the third was a multi-level dungeon crawl. And that changed the approach of all of them. What I did, though, is I put very specific parameters in place to focus the play. For example, you are on a time crunch. You have to save this guy before he gets sacrificed. Or, your objective is within this building. You have to go into this building. And so that led to direction from them. And then, of course, once you trip alarms and guards start coming out, then all bets are off and the stuff hits the fan. But no, I mean, it's more of applied pressure for the scenario that I've created for people to kind of give them a kick in the butt to get them moving along.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
That's con play. That's convention play. That's different from my home game. That part's different.
JB, would you say that it's actually probably just good practice in general with con games to play it all a little bit tighter, because you only have those 4 hours to get it done? That you kind of get people in that I guess in that right mindset of making bold plays, that sort of stuff.
That's definitely how I approached this particular convention. When I've played in other conventions and doing old school play, that's my approach as a player. But for this particular convention, I thought that was important. I debated whether I was going into this convention to either to showcase AD&D or to showcase the experience of AD&D. And I decided on doing the latter. And part of that was because, like I said, of the presumption of the AdCon, the people were going to be bringing their characters here. And so I really wanted them to have focused play of, we got this adventure, we have these objectives, we're not going to mess around. Go in there, do your job, and you're going to get rewarded. And then you'll be able to take a big pile of treasure and experience points back to your home game. That was the way I decided to go. But what I could have done was something more. If I'd known there were going to be so many players who were relatively new to first edition AD&D, I might have done something else to kind of showcase the possibilities. Like I might have run one of the high level scenarios that I did for NAP and shown
Seeds of Fate or something.
Right. Well, I mean, the same way that you did Blythe Hive, right? So that people can see, oh, look at what I can do with a 15th level character and a bunch of henchmen at my back, and how the game still plays out at that level. I could have also done something very low level and shown how you can still have a very intense experience even with low level play. But my perspective, or my objective, because of the AdCon thing, was I'm going to make some mid-level stuff that'll work for people taking their own characters, so that those who survive will be able to go home and say, hey, look, the AdCon thing allowed me to pick up these magic weapons and treasure and right on. That was what I decided to do. There are different approaches. That was the approach I chose for this particular Cauldron, or this particular convention. So no, in Prince, I don't know that. I don't know if I would always recommend doing that. But that's what I did this time.
All right. Yeah, for the record, I definitely think Seas of Fate and even Hell's Own Temple probably would make for pretty baller um, con games. Especially Seas of Fate. Just the format alone kind of like makes it
Oh yeah.
um, makes it just eminently suitable for that stuff. So I obviously the chance of you showing up for the next Cauldron are remote, but I don't know. Maybe who knows? Maybe somebody will do it in your honor. Okay, all right,
That would be awesome, man. That would be awesome. I'd love to hear a play report
sure.
or read about one on a blog or something. I read, so I like to read blogs.
We don't advocate for reading around here. It's not effective.
I
Especially
know
not.
it's
Yeah.
so passé these days.
Correct. I mean, dead trees, words, nah.
I mean, there's something to be said that actually the best way to transmit RPG ideas is to actually play them. You know, blogs being all fine and dandy, and I've read my share of blogs and wrote my share of blogs. It's all good, but the proof is in the pudding, right? So there's something to that.
I mean, it definitely has there's a value to, and of course I say this as a as a reviewer, sort of defending my own turf, but no, there can be a value in, I think, in exploring an idea or in a review, but it does have to be anchored to some sort of actual play, and I do think that like what plagues the blogosphere to a lesser extent, but also this hobby is like as soon as you sever that, if people stop like playing too much, then it gets very sort of like weird. People get caught up on bizarre imaginary points. So yeah, definitely just illustrating. I mean, take the AD&D is complex thing, right? The where everybody imagines this sort of like clunky, nightmarish behemoth, but if you see it and you see people running it, it's like it's a smooth, absolutely smooth. So I think it can be good to yeah, it is the strongest way to sort of illustrate um, what something actually looks like when you go and use it.
No, y'all are right. You're all correct here. That it's the playing that's the important thing. And we often, when we start discussing game theory and the minutia of the game rules, that's when we forget how the things actually play out. For example, the first session I ran at Cauldron was I revamped and kind of updated the tournament scenario that was the origin of Dwellers of the Forbidden City. And I ran it pretty much with the same map. And it's very, if you look at it and you look at it from a design perspective, you say, oh, this is all linear. It's just one room after another, one challenge after another. There's no meaningful gameplay or options available to the players. But when you actually run it, what you find is there's a lot of meaningful decision-making things that occur and a lot of interesting set pieces that occur where different decisions can affect the outcome of how things play out. The characters in the first section of the thing have to traverse a subterranean lake with a lot of twists and turns to it, and then there are some giant crocodiles that come up and try to eat their canoes. And how are they going to deal with that? I mean, are they going to strip off their armor and jump in the water? Are they going to try to paddle away? Are they going to, try to have some sort of underwater battle right there? And in the case of the players in my game session, we had Mikhail, again, using his excellent speak with animals technique to negotiate passage with the crocodiles to get through there, to get through that particular challenge. And so you can still have meaningful decision-making and meaningful gameplay, even in a dungeon that is more or less linear in nature. But you won't, if you just look at it on the page, you say, oh, this doesn't look very fun until you actually go and run it and play it. And it's from the playing that we get more of an idea. From having that experience, we can have more of an idea when we analyze these adventures and see whether it looks like it's going to be fun or looks like it's going to be a problem. I know Gabor has talked about he can look at a game map and see that even though it may not be linear, it may have roadblocks to it, bottlenecks that stop gameplay. And he can tell just by looking at the map from his experience that this is going to be an issue when you actually run the adventure. And I agree with that. Yeah, the play is the important part, having the experience of play. And the more we actually run games, or the more we play in games, the better we get at understanding the hobby that we're all participating in.
Yeah, that's also the thing I liked about Cauldron, because the play is, like Black Razor and Prince said, the play is the goal of the whole thing. And I think Cauldron showed that you can play AD&D pretty easily, especially to the new people who hadn't contact with it, because like the rumors going around that it's too complex. It's this, like Prince said, it's this behemoth. I mean, I played 2E. I played third edition and fifth edition. I play OD&D and stuff, but this was the first time I really DM'd AD&D first edition. I worked my way through the books, and while they are clunkily written, though you can say that there's a certain elegance to them if you put in the work. And I was surprised at how many times I read a passage and then something clicked just from reading it, and I said, oh no, this makes sense. And then seeing that in play is another one of those it clicks together moments. And I think Cauldron did that pretty well, because like my driver, like I told earlier, he came to the convention. He also read and played AD&D first edition a few times, but seeing it at that level with that many people was like an eye-opener.
I think with many people, old school gaming actually shines. It has a speed of resolution and combat and other subsystems, and a certain elegance to it that's not easily redoable in third edition or fourth edition, or even fifth edition, where everything's tailored to the 4-player group, that it's doing its combos. And on the other hand, the whole trad gaming thing, I don't know if you discussed this, but if you do go full RuneQuest style trad gaming with lots of debates and discussions and investigations and reading of secret texts and so on, then you also run into natural limits with the player count. And it's one of the beauties of the olden style of games that we love so much, that you can easily have 9 or 10 players even, and nobody feels left out.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of I guess just like the only thing you really have to practice is organizing 10 people. It's not that hard. You just have to be consistent with how you do turn orders and that sort of stuff.
No, I was just going to say that's the case with any kind of group dynamic thing that you're working with, right? You got to put together the group and then figure out how they work together so that you can facilitate the play at the table. And you're going to have that regardless of your system or your edition, really.
So any other experiences that you guys want to comment on?
I would say we should talk about the auction, at least mention it.
I was about to say myself, yeah.
So what about it?
I mean, one thing I don't know if this is unfair certain people towards certain people, but I got a kind of feeling there were certain there was an auction at Cauldron Con, for those who are not in the know, and basically guests could bring stuff and drop it at the table, and the Cauldron organizers would auction it off for you, and you get your share of the winnings. But the kind of feeling I got was that there were like two kinds of auctioned off items. The first kind was old school relevant stuff that people wanted to share with the community, like I don't need it, so I put it in the auction and you can have it. And I kind of got the feeling that there were some items in the list that were basically like, I just want to get lost. I want this to get lost. This isn't old school. Like there was a Merc Berg supplement in there, and I kind of got the feeling that people just dropped it in there so to like, okay, let's see what happens.
I mean, somebody might be happy with it. I don't know. At least as reading material. But, yep. It's like In AD&D we call it remove curse.
Yeah.
No, but that was all right, right? Like it was just a bunch of like old OSR materials. Some of them are not bad. I have a copy of Dungeon Alphabet, of course, Tegel Manor, very welcome, and the spectacular, brilliant Crypt of Lysandrid the Mad, which I believe I had I paid all the $5 for. And I mean, I guess it's all sort of like OSR affiliated. It didn't feel out of place to me.
Well, I mean, the Wraithu thing was a bit out of left field.
Oh,
But
the Wraithu one was okay, but that's sort of that
So
was the
the
Saturday
original-
night special. Okay, that's the 1 in 20. The sort of the freak show circus, the a grotesquerie. Okay, for the amusement of the crowds
Bearded woman, if you will.
in more than one way. Yeah.
I mean, wasn't it also like JB? Didn't you win it or buy it and then simply left it for the next guy to bid on?
No, for the next con.
Yeah.
Perfect. There should be something like that at convention.
And thus a tradition was born.
Yeah. One can only hope. I brought some of my books that I've published over the years to the convention. And the thing is that they weren't, I felt a little bad about it because they were all based for the most part, they were all for BX and we were there for AD&D. And I had thought about just selling them or, trying to get the money, but I thought it would be better to, I thought the auction was, or I assumed the auction was something that was going to benefit the convention. So I didn't actually go there trying. When I donated those books, I was thinking, oh, this will be money going to the convention itself. And I'll tell you, I was very happy to do that because of the joy that I got out of the convention. I wanted to give something back more than just being there and running games. I wanted to give them some extra dollars, So I was glad that people were interested in buying that stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to say thank you very much to everybody. We talked about this to great length on our Zockbook Radio episode on Cauldron, but here on this venue again, thanks to everybody. This really, we were flabbergasted. We didn't expect anything like that, and there was great outpour of how do you say? People were donating a lot of their stuff to be auctioned off as led by JB. I think you were one of the on the forefront of that, and then many others followed suit or did it on their own volition, like Lamentations of the Flame Princess Press. They also donated new stuff, also prestigious stuff, and so on and so on. So thanks again to everybody who did this. We weren't prepared for this kind of support, and it made us all very happy and made things much easier. And the decision to do next year again very easy. So thanks again.
Thanks, Brini. So putting you on the spot just a little, you broke news that it's probably going to be an extra day. Do you guys have a venue picked out, or are you going to stay with the same one?
Yes, we have looked at different options for potential growth. But on the short notice, all the other venues that could mean growth in the sense of allowing more than the number of players we could allow this time was not possible. There was only one option that was still not booked, and this was really terrible. It was like, you wouldn't want to go there. I can share pictures later if you want. Would not have worked. Would only have worked on paper, but not. It was like even I think the restrooms there, the sanitary conditions. I think they were even bad when the German Democratic Republic fell. And since then, nothing has been done there. So wow. So you wouldn't want to go there. Okay, so we were thinking, what can we do if we can't do more extensive gaming, we just could intensify. So that's how we said, okay, we stay in Hohenroda, at least for next year, but we'll at least offer an additional day because we have the work anyway. We had to take free time anyway, as I explained earlier. So that's what's going to happen. And the website for registration will soon go up, and then hopefully people will be interested again, and hopefully it will not take the thunder out of it with one more day. But I mean, if people cannot make it or don't want to do more than Friday to Sunday, at least they can safely arrive on Friday at any time they want, and will find options there. So I think everybody will benefit, or we hope everybody will benefit from this additional day one way or the other, to make it even more relaxed, even more game filled. And yeah, that's the plan for the future, and it's already been paid. So we need people to come, but let's see what happens.
So, but it's going to be the same 50-ish people maximum there?
Yeah, we will have there's some plan to allow maybe 5 or 6 more people with some tricks, but we will think about those tricks if we, not like sleight of hand, but some careful organization. But we will approach this once we hit like 40 registrations, or maybe 30. But if we see places are moving quickly, slots are moving quickly, and people there's really like a big demand, then we might sneak in 5 or 6 more people by doing something that will not hurt the others' living spaces. So let's see how this works. But we would like, or at least I would like to be able to offer more spots in total to grow, but this is not possible in this short time. So we buy out. So by doing it once more in Hohenroda, we buy us 1 more year to check for other locations that would allow growth in that sense. And maybe this will not materialize in the end, or maybe interest next year is not high enough, so we stick to it, or we have to cancel it. You know what? We'll see what the future brings. But next year, 1 more day, but same location.
No. Just a short thing that next year you can sort of perfect the formula a little, get more experience with that, and after that, change of venue is sort of probably easier if it's already even more efficient engine than it was this year.
Well, regardless, congratulations. It sounds like it was incredibly successful. Just from the feedback from these guys, I'm sure you got more, but everything I have personally heard about it, it was an absolute success. So congratulations, Seth and Brini, on that, and to all your team for doing that. I'm hoping personally that I can get out there next year and participate. So having it at the same location, I feel like I'm a little jealous of all these gentlemen that got to go and be there for the first con. There's something special about that for sure. But at least getting to say, hey, I was at the con when it was at that original location, I feel is a badge of honor. So I'm a little jealous of you guys.
Well, as you should be. It was genuinely exciting. It was very cool. So
well, I mean,
anybody who envies that is correct.
Yeah, 10 years from now, there will be special Grognard badges for the people who were there with the Emperor at the first battles. No,
We'll all be on a panel together.
Yeah. It's
I hope not. I mean, then this would be a personal failure if we had hierarchies
Sell out.
and
Yes. Excellent.
Sell out.
Selling out, no gaming anymore, just nerd cloud. Hell yeah.
a lot of purchasing of product, a lot of panels. Yeah.
Merchandise.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But there will be a different giveaway or takeaway, let's say. So if you attended the first Cauldron, you got your little dice bag, and this will not be a dice bag next year to make it to mix it up a little. So there are some little changes.
Gold cauldron, actually.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
But
again,
Solid
I
no,
gold cauldron.
a small token of your could be a bust of gold, a small token of your appreciation. Just
But
spitballing.
you know, talking about appreciation, I really, really appreciate, and I didn't say this enough yet, all the DMs, all among you who DM'd right now in this. I guess we're a panel right now, but also all those who are just regular people who don't show up online so much, but still DM'd, and everybody did a great job. And it's basically, I mean, we did organizing and we did talking about it, but what we actually did was facilitate DMs to DM, and this only works if there's actually DMs who do it, and they didn't get any price hike. I mean, the inverse of a hike. What do you say? They didn't get any rebate. The DMs didn't get any special treatment except our gratitude, everybody's gratitude, and I think this is just wonderful. This you need players, you need organizers, but the secret stars are the dungeon masters and mistresses and everything in between. And this is just I'm really grateful and thankful for all the DMs out there.
Well, I think speaking for myself as one of the unpaid DMs that had to buy his own ticket, this is a good. Anyone listening to this podcast, take this as a good lesson for your con that you want to run. You say you want to run a convention of first edition AD&D games in a German castle with free beer, and the DMs will come. That's what drove me out there.
I heard people called it Cauldron Con. Is that right?
Lovingly, very lovingly.
Yeah, maybe.
I think I started that.
Hey, the crowd was good. I had my fill. The sausage was good. Christoph did a good job.
Oh yeah, the pig. What is it? The Spainfarken. I don't know the
Spanferkel.
Spanferkel. That's right. Yeah, that was actually exquisite. The food was actually just though. I don't give perfect scores, but it was good. It was very good.
Honestly, this is still blowing my mind that the food was made on site for the con. This is not something that ever happens stateside. Yeah,
crates of beer stashed on the back portico, and you could just walk there and get a beer, whatever. This free of charge. It was amazing.
It was also a very interesting meeting of different spirits from all over the European Union, because basically everybody had a bottle of whiskey or something with them.
And not only the European Union, there was proper Srpska Rakija. So you had something from Serbia also. So not in the EU yet. So there you go.
Of the European mainland, but also some friends from from across the strip and even across the ocean. So yeah, it rocked.
It was delightful.
So Settembrini, you said you're going to have a link for anybody interested in next year's con, but before you get that link up, or if I heard you wrong and you have it up, let me know. I'll definitely put it in our show notes. But if that link isn't ready yet for next year, could they go to this year's con link, and will that be updated?
I mean, what I can say, so the registration is not yet up. What you still can do, you can go up to the Cauldron website. Once you see it's updated, then you see it's updated, right? And we'll of course make announcement, but you can go to cauldron.pesa-nexus.de, which I'll just share the link. This is the general website, and it's not updated yet, and it probably will not be until mid-December, but soon, maybe early December still. I don't know. Let's see how fast we can move on the internet front, and then you will see the once it says 2024, the registration will open.
Exciting stuff.
Can I say one more thing?
Of course.
I mean, I know I've really said a lot already, but damn, I miss you guys. Just talking with you here. I remember I can see all your faces. And just hanging out with you and sharing our love of this hobby was just such a fantastic experience. You're all really genuine human beings who genuinely love the hobby, and I share your passion. And I wish I could be there next year. I just don't think I can. But I miss you guys just talking to you.
Same here, same here.
Yeah.
Same here, Mr. Becker. I was going to remark, actually, that was also kind of cool that even after the last game had concluded, I think we still spent like whatever on Saturday, at least, I think we still spent 1 or 2 hours afterwards just shooting the breeze with everybody. It was just like very very jovial atmosphere. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, on that note, thank you all again for coming on, sharing your experience with the audience. And I think if this doesn't interest folks, I don't know what will, from your guys' words. So thank you very much. And we will catch everybody on the next episode. Well, what a great time having such a big group of gamers to talk with and get the download on the makings of what I hope will become one of the premier old school gaming conventions out there. I definitely want to wish Settembrini and the team of Nexus Gamers all the best, and hopefully many more years ahead for their con. I hope everyone enjoyed the show and that you might be inspired to attend Cauldron in the future. I know it's definitely on my personal bucket list. As always, we appreciate you all tuning in. Come hang out with us in the Discord, chat it up, voice chat with us, interact however you see fit with myself, Josh, the gentleman from the panel, several of the guys that you just heard tonight, as well as many other fantasy adventure gaming enthusiasts. As always, I'll post a link in the show notes. And with that, I'll sign off. Take care, everyone.